What's going on, y'all? Thanks for checking in the Khaliis Take. You know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell just so you can get the newest and the bonus content first. But hey, let's just go ahead and jump right in. Lakers general manager Rob Pelinka says there's going to be changes with the Lakers and the roster and just changes in general. Now, every time I hear Rob Pelinka, I always definitely, take with a grain of salt. And I always look at it as just more lies coming from the Lakers front office. And that's the only way I look at it, because anytime this guy speaks, I don't respect anything he says. I think he's been, a cancer for the Lakers for a while now. And I feel like the moves and some of the moves that he makes are not pre-calculated. They're just, spontaneous, and they're just unjust at times, and don't get me wrong, spontaneousness is good at times, but I mean, it's a time and a place for that specifically. And to me, Rob Pelinka just doesn't need to be a GM of the Lakers, because as long as he's a GM of the Lakers, I just see the team going through a lot more issues than they would be rather than if they didn't have him as a GM. I think, Magic Johnson, somebody like that should be the GM, or somebody else, or whoever the case may be. I don't think it should be Rob Pelinka, though. I don't believe anything this guy says. He was also the one saying about this past season there'd be changes, along with LeBron James, saying that. But nothing was shown. Everything was just it was just all talk. It wasn't anything else. You can sit there and talk all you want, but I mean, the changes, whatever changes that are going to be made, that will be made, or whatever the case may be, they have to benefit the situation for the Lakers to win a championship, not, just be a change that's made that's not helping them win anything. And that's the way I look at Rob Pelinka. I mean, he could say all these things. LeBron said last year himself, the Lakers will be better going forward and all this. This is all talk. Because Anthony Davis had to stay healthy. LeBron had to stay healthy. Russell Westbrook has to learn to fit. And, there's a lot of reports and stuff going out there about certain players that could be acquired by the Lakers and other teams like the Clippers and all these other teams and stuff like that. But regardless of the talk and the speculation, the Lakers have to show and tell. They have to make changes to the roster for the better of their defense more than their offense. And on top of that, just overall, the team has to, just play better as a unit. They have to play better, more cohesiveness. And that sometimes takes time. And it's just not something that happens overnight. You see what I'm saying? So when you look at that itself in general, I want to know what changes are they going to make. I mean, are they going to make changes on the offensive end? I mean, because there's a lot of talks about Kyrie Irving, all this other type stuff, being put out there about other players. I mean, are they going to make changes on the offensive end, or are they going to make changes on the defensive end? Because the defensive end is what they need to work on if we're talking about on the floor. Now, of course, like I said, in the front office, they need to get rid of Rob Pelinka. That's what they definitely need to do in the office. But on the floor itself, the roster, they need more defensive players. They need more defense. They don't need more offense, really, because if they just stayed healthy, offensively, they would be pretty good. I mean, they got 3 top 75 players. So offense, they could find a way to make their, offense a little bit more formidable. But defense is something that's really, that really hindered them this past season. I mean, they couldn't stop anything, anything any other team was doing. It was just an utter waste, them playing a lot of games, because, I mean, they just looked so discombobulated. And they looked so like out of sort. They didn't look like a team that, could win anything. And they didn't. They didn't even make the play-in tournament. So, that says a lot or very little about their team. So when you think of that, I mean, they got to find a way to get better on defense. But whatever changes that they're thinking about making, even if, what Rob Pelinka's speaking on, if Kyrie Irving is the change, because I hear, as I said before, Kyrie's name is floating around in conversations because he might not be with the Nets. The Lakers and the Knicks are, suitors for, Kyrie Irving if there's any changes made there. In my estimation, though, that wouldn't be a bad trade, because, like I said, Kyrie Irving, we all know the guy is just not stable, seem like, and you just don't know what Kyrie you're getting. And then on top of that, it seems like everywhere he goes, he disrupts a situation or makes a situation worse. So if I were them, I wouldn't even look to get Kyrie. But if that's a part of the changes and moves that they're talking about making, or Rob Pelinka is speaking of, offensive moves like that, where you're getting more offense and more things like that, in that area, well, that's not really your problem. Your problem is defense. You can't stop anybody. Getting a Kyrie Irving is not going to help you because he doesn't play defense. I mean, he's definitely not the type of player who's going to make big defensive plays at times, or like during games to, save a game. He's the type that's going to make big plays on offense. And like I said, the offense is already pretty good if you look at it overall. Now, of course, they can use a little bit more offensive talent, of course, because LeBron is getting older. But if you look at how LeBron played last year, if he plays that way going into this season, well, their offense is fine if he can continue to do that. But my point is, on defense is their issue. So even if they do get a Kyrie Irving, they might add some other pieces, intermediate pieces here and there, stuff like that. But you also got to look at too. You have a 1-year head coach. You have a rookie head coach coming into the situation, trying to manage a team, and never has done this before. So I mean, there's a lot that goes with this. And don't get me wrong, Darvin Ham, I think he'll be a pretty good coach for them. I think he will. It's hard to say because he's never been a head coach for a team before. So you just hope that, he comes in and brings those intangibles, those little things, and get everybody going, keeps everybody motivated, keeps everybody's interest, all those things, which I believe he can. I believe his words are powerful. I believe he's the type of guy where, when he speaks, players listen. I feel like he has that type of respect because he was a player in the league, and, a lot of players just respect him overall for the guy that he is, and, what he brings and the toughness he brings. So that toughness he brings is definitely going to rub off on some players, on the Lakers. It's just that, the Lakers got to figure out, who are they going to move to bring in certain ones that can help actually make them better, because making the Lakers better is one thing, but the Lakers should be a team that's built for a championship. And when you got 3 top 75 players, that's championship material type team. That's not just making the playoffs. So they're going to have to, or Rob Pelinka and the front office, they're going to have to make changes that's going to make them a championship contender. Now, there is some names out there, as I said, that can actually make them better on offense. But what about defense? You see what I'm saying? That's what the Lakers need to focus on most. And honestly, that's what a lot of teams need to focus on more so, defense. Because, offensively, everybody shoots now. Everybody steps back with threes. Everybody's shooting. It's a scoring league now more than it ever used to be. So, offense really isn't too many teams, and it's not too many teams in the NBA actually have that problem on offense. It's more or less the defensive area. And if that's the case, then Rob Pelinka is going to have to make some huge changes, sacrifices, or whatever the case may be, to acquire those type pieces to come in that can help make them better. Because when you getting beat by teams like OKC earlier in the season, this past season, and you got 3 top 75 players, OKC should never be able to beat the Lakers with 3 top 75 players. There's no way that should happen, but they did. You know why? Because they're younger, they're faster, and they're more youthful, which means the Lakers get tired because they're an older team, which means their defense, the little bit of defense they do play, wanes or fades out as the game goes along because fatigue starts to set in. So this is why I said having defensive players or putting more defense on the team is going to help, and adding some youth can actually help as well. Guys who can, sustain and go the distance. So, the Lakers got a lot to do to become a championship team. And I don't believe Rob Pelinka's promises or comments or anything like that is going to make the Lakers a better team, because first of all, most fans don't even listen or like Rob Pelinka. So everything, it seems like ever since he's been there, it has pretty much been going south for the most part. They did get the bubble championship. I do commend them for that, which a lot of people put an asterisk beside that one, because a lot of people look at that not even as real basketball. No fans, somewhere stranded on seemed like an island somewhere in Orlando. And it's a gym with a bunch of faces on a damn, board or like picture up there with, different faces of old people and, older players, young people, people from like newscasts. I mean, it was just kind of ridiculous how they had that, how they made up the so-called fans. They had one of the fans, I think, was Julius Erving sitting somewhere in some tower or something like that. It was just really crazy with the bubble situation, how they tried to make it. I mean, it was all we had. So, that was it. That's all we could work with, what we had the moment. But it was just different type basketball to me. But I still give the Lakers credit for winning the championship, because a win is a win. But at the same time, a lot of people put an asterisk beside that championship. But even still, I mean, it was just, I don't know. I really didn't enjoy the bubble myself, you know what I'm saying? Really, in particular, it just didn't feel right, but we got used to it, you see what I'm saying? But at the same time, Rob Pelinka was around when that happened. You got to give him, I'm not giving him no credit, but you got to give the Lakers credit for pulling out a championship, which I thought they had a good coach in Frank Vogel. But, things didn't work out there, so you move on from him, you add Darvin Ham. So that's one of the changes that Rob Pelinka passed through, and LeBron approved of it. But I mean, the approval of LeBron James is good, but that's only going to last if winning is involved. If they start losing like they did last year, the appreciation and the approval is going to reverse for LeBron, probably, because he's all about winning. He's not about anything else. And so, like I said, one change that Rob Pelinka definitely has made, which is, the coaching position. Let's see if that works out, because that's up in the air as a question mark. And any other changes that he makes in the offseason, we're going to have to see if those pan out, because like I said, I just don't think he's going to make the right choices. He might, don't get me wrong, he might make some good, find some good pieces out there. Don't get me wrong. But if they, like I said, if they're not focused on if it's not focused on the defensive end, it's not going to make the Lakers a better team, because offensively they'll be fine. Defensively is their issue, so that's what needs to be implemented. And like I said before, if they somehow land Kyrie Irving, the whole operation is going to go bad. It's just going to go bad. I just, Kyrie is too much of a headache. They better stay away from him. That's the only thing I know. I mean, honestly, I tell you, Rob Pelinka could really turn this organization into crap, or he can really kind of help it, bring it back to gold. He can do either one, because he's in position to do a lot of things in regards to, of course, the roster, everything like that. So, I mean, he's in position to make some moves this summer. The Lakers they got some clout, they got some leeway, so they can make some moves this offseason. But, they're gonna have to be pre-calculated. They can't be just spontaneous moves and then throw something out there on the court next season and then end up the way this past season ended and don't make the play-in tournament. That can't happen, because if it does, not only he'll be on the hot seat, but he'll definitely be gone. Which some NBA or some Lakers fans probably actually secretly out there hoping that the Lakers don't have too good of a season, so they could find a way or have an excuse to fire Rob Pelinka. So I mean, some Lakers fans are probably secretly thinking that, but of course they're not going to say that. But I mean, at the same time, it definitely wouldn't surprise me if that was the case, because I definitely don't trust Rob Pelinka. I definitely don't see any good in him, and I definitely think the Lakers would be a lot better off once they remove him from the office and put somebody else in there who kind of knows more about what this is about, know more about basketball. And this guy apparently doesn't know that much, to me, because he's just not what the Lakers need right now. He's really, he's really the burden to the Lakers. He really was bringing them down, if you ask me, these last couple seasons. But hey, like I said, we'll see what happens. I'm not gonna go in on too hard or too much, because we got to see what changes are made. We got to see what the outcome is of the Lakers going to the next season and see how their season pans out. But hey, that's my take on everything. Leave any comments in the comment section. As always, check out my other videos if you haven't. And hey, Khaliis out.